We actually made it. Guys, we're here. Today's September 5th. You know what that means? Thursday Night Football, baby. We're back. We've never been more back, which means today I'm going to start my prediction series where I'm going to predict every single NFL Week 1 game. Before we get started with that, couple of quick announcements. Number one, last year this series was kind of rough, where I got logged out of the second channel. We're at More ZMC, by the way. I got logged out of the second channel, so I had to upload half of them on my main channel. And then, I always could not edit them in time, so they got out a day late, even though I filmed it before the games even started. So this year, we're planning on trying to keep it more professional and trying to get them out on time. It's Thursday morning. It's 10:56 right as of right now, and this is when I'm filming this. With that said, let me know down below what are your predictions for the NFL Week 1. Who is your favorite team? Obviously, I'm a Chiefs fan. I've been a fan before Mahomes even played, okay? Don't go after me because of that, because I've been a fan before Mahomes even played. And with that said, let's get started with Week 1, Thursday Night Football. Tonight, it is the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Baltimore Ravens. I'm a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. I think that we're going to have a big shot at three-peating this year. But we do have a tough matchup against the Baltimore Ravens to start out the season. Baltimore is one of these teams that always have a phenomenal season. Lamar Jackson, they added to the roster with Derrick Henry this past offseason. Now they have Zay Flowers, who is a solid wide receiver. Plus you got Lamar Jackson, who will be able to run whenever things get tough. They have a solid defense. So I think this is going to be a very good game for both teams. Kansas City definitely added in the offseason as well. We added Xavier Worthy in the draft. We got Hollywood Brown, who will not be playing this game. But along the lines with that, we have Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. So Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy. I just dropped my phone. That's a 3 solid players for the wide receiver corps. The main question I have to ask is, how did the season start last year? I did some research last night. Mahomes started 5-1 in opening week games. He's 5-1. But we had a rough start last year. And yeah, I know a lot of it was because our wide receiver core sucked last year. We added to that. We improved over that. But there were a lot of flaws starting out against the Detroit Lions, who is they're a tough team, but they're not the Baltimore Ravens. They're not as good as the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm actually going to predict Baltimore to win this game. I genuinely think that Baltimore is going to win. It is going to be a thriller. It is going to be a great game. I'm going to be screaming. I will be rooting for my Kansas City Chiefs all along. I do feel like Baltimore is going to take the dub here against Kansas City. I feel like Kansas City is just going to start getting warmed up to the season. We're going to have a good game, but ultimately the Ravens are going to have a better game, and they are going to fight through and get the dub here. At least I think. Then we move on to some Friday Night Football. The Philadelphia Eagles host the Green Bay Packers. Not really host, because they're in Brazil. Green Bay and Philadelphia. Now, these are two teams that were solid last year. The Philadelphia Eagles completely ruined their season at the back half of it. Then they eventually lost in the wild card round to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But just like the Ravens and the Chiefs, they improved their roster. They added Saquon Barkley as the main running back. They still have A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. So that's a solid team there. Green Bay, Jordan Love had a great year last year, and I think he's going to have an even better year this year. They got a solid enough defense, a pretty great O-line, if I do say so myself. But I think Philadelphia is going to have a great season, at least until the very end, where I do think that they're going to ruin it all in the playoffs again. So, in this tough matchup, it's another matchup that I think will be really close for the majority of it. But I'm going to say that Philly is able to break off and win. And I got a lot of Philly players on my fantasy roster this year. So last year I was a Philly hater. This year I will be rooting for Philly. But I do think that the Eagles are going to take this Week 1 dub in a really close game. Then we got Pittsburgh away against the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons added a new quarterback. They have Kirk Cousins in the main role there. Then Steelers also added to their quarterbacks, got rid of Kenny Pickett, and they added Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Okay, Russell Wilson had a solid offense with the Denver Broncos. He was the main issue. Justin Fields did not have a solid roster, and I think Justin Fields is the most underrated quarterback in the NFL. They are starting Russell Wilson, and which is going to be really rough with a Steelers team that I don't think is as strong. Don't have as strong of an offense as the Denver Broncos do, because Denver has Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, that's his name. They have a decent enough defense, but Russell Wilson was the main problem. So putting Russell Wilson in where they got George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth and Najee Harris, somehow this team gets to the playoffs every year. But I don't think they're going to be doing too good. We have to see how Atlanta is going to be with Kirk as their new QB. We're going to have to see how that's going to be. I do think that the Falcons have a solid roster. Kyle Pitts. Who else do they have? His name is at the top of my head. Bijan Robinson and Drake London. That's who I was thinking of. Bijan Robinson, Drake London. It's a solid roster. Kirk Cousins. But I'm going to have to see if Kirk is going to be old or if he's going to be a solid quarterback. Nevertheless, I do think Atlanta is going to take this week one matchup against Pittsburgh. Then we move on to Arizona at Buffalo. This is going to be a good game as well. Buffalo definitely got worse in the offseason. They don't have Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis anymore. So they are going to be a little bit rougher around the edges. They do still have Josh Allen. They got Keon Coleman, who is a rookie this year. I believe that's the guy I'm thinking of. But they're playing the Arizona Cardinals, who last year had a terrible season. Kyler Murray was out for the majority of the entire season. They added Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft, but no telling how good he's going to be. Now comes the time where we got to talk about Kyler Murray, because I keep saying to my brother, who picked up Kyler Murray in a 4-team fantasy football league, a 4-team league, picked up Kyler Murray as his starting quarterback, keeps saying that he's trash, but I don't think he's like the worst quarterback. I think he's qualified enough. He's solid enough. I do think Arizona's at least going to get 6 or 7 wins this year, more than they did last year. But they are playing Buffalo. They've still got a tough defense, and even though the offense definitely took a step down, losing some great wide receivers, now they have Josh Allen and Keon Coleman. That's about it on the offense. I don't really know how the Buffalo Bills team is going to be. It's another team that I'm going to have to see them play before I can truly talk about what I think they're going to be. But I do think that they are still going to take up this matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. Tennessee at Chicago. The Chicago Bears picked up Caleb Williams in the draft, got rid of Justin Fields over to Pittsburgh. Again, bad move. I think if they kept Justin Fields and, had that with Keenan Allen, Roma Odunze, who else do they have? Oh yeah, DJ Moore, the solid running back that they have. They have a really great team this year. And I don't know how Caleb Williams is going to be. He looked great in the preseason against a bunch of non-starters. So you don't know how good he's going to be. But me, I'm a Tennessee Titan hater. Y'all know that. Y'all know I hate the Tennessee Titans. Like, I've discussed this several times last year. I don't think they're going to be better than last year. I still don't think that they're going to be any good. But the Chicago Bears, they are rough. You don't know how good they're going to be. They had a rough season last year. You don't know how good they can be. But I am predicting that they're going to be solid enough to make a wild card spot, which means I do think they're going to be more solid than the Tennessee Titans, which means I do think that Caleb Williams is going to have like 1 or 2 picks this game. He's going to have a mediocre game, but it's still going to be enough to get them the win. But I'm still going to have to see what Caleb Williams is going to look like in an actual, real, regular season NFL game before I can give my full thoughts on the Bears. The New England Patriots at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, another team that I hate because I am a Chiefs fan, but I'm not gonna lie. I would pick this to be my upset of the week if they were playing Drake May, but they're playing Jacoby. They're playing Jacoby Myers. Why? Why are you playing Jacoby Myers? I don't know. Drake May proved he was qualified in the preseason. Again, against a bunch of non-starters. I get that, but the games I watched of Drake May looked solid, and then they put Jacoby Myers in at quarterback. And now I don't know what to think of the team. Actually, I do know. They're going to suck. They are really going to suck. After this week 1, Jacoby is going to throw about, I'm going to say about 2 or 3 picks this game. And then they're going to have to go with Drake May in week 2, which I am going to predict them to win. I don't really know who they're playing at this point. I didn't look that far ahead. But I'm going to have to predict New England to probably win that game. Because I do think Drake May is going to be solid. And I do think that they can lead the Patriots to maybe getting close to a wild card spot. But if you play Jacoby Myers at your quarterback, he is not good at all. He did not do good in the preseason. He was rough. And I'm ranting about the New England Patriots right now. I don't like the New England Patriots, but this coaching idea was terrible. Cincinnati, yes, I do know they always start out the season rough. They never get off on the right foot. I don't think they're going to play a super great game here, but I do think it's going to be enough to beat Jacoby Myers and the New England Patriots in week 1. Houston at Indianapolis, a great division rivalry game. Last regular season game between those two to decide who goes to the playoffs. Obviously, Houston did, and they had a good run until they faced the Baltimore Ravens. And I do think Houston's going to win this game. Houston is the one team that I think in the AFC has the biggest chance of winning the whole thing. Or not winning the whole thing, but going in undefeated season. I don't think they're going to be undefeated, but I do think they got the best chance. Not only did they have a phenomenal season last year, but they spent the offseason improving to the team. They got picked up Stephon Diggs, so it means the big 3 wide receivers. Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins. They got Dalton Schultz at tight end. CJ Stroud is a phenomenal quarterback. I think they're going to improve last year over that. And they're going to become an even better team this year and go deep to the playoffs. I think besides Kansas City, I think they got the best chance to win it all in the AFC. They're playing Indianapolis, who I do think is solid. Obviously, you have Anthony Richardson, who got injured for the season last year. I'm a Gators fan. I used to watch Anthony Richardson on the Gators, so I do like Anthony Richardson. I will kind of halfway be rooting for the Colts because I do like Richardson, but I don't think that it's going to be enough, and I do think the Houston Texans are going to take the dub here against Indianapolis. But I do also think Indianapolis is going to have a solid season. The Jacksonville Jaguars visit Miami in week 1 to take on the Dolphins. Dolphins, I think their biggest downfall is their quarterback. It's another NFL hot take for me that I don't think Tua is a good quarterback. I think that if they had a qualified quarterback, they'd go undefeated every year with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane. Fastest team in the league, and I think if you just run streaks the whole time, that'd be great. But Tua does not have the arm for that. I think he's the biggest weakness of it. I do think that they will get a playoff spot, but will lose early on like they always do. But I do think that they are going to beat Jacksonville. Jacksonville is solid enough. You got Trevor Lawrence, who is a decent quarterback. You have Evan Ingram, who I think is a top 5 tight end. But I don't think it's going to be enough to beat Miami, especially that Miami always starts out the season explosive. I mean, look at last year. They started out the season with win against the Chargers in a shoot 'em out game, and then a couple weeks later you scored 70 against Denver. So I do think Miami is going to start out hot, but I do think Jacksonville is going to be solid. They're going to be solid enough for playing against Miami, but I do have to predict Miami to win this one. The Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints are a team that added Derek Carr last year and kind of just disappointed me. Derek Carr was not as good as I thought he would be on a different team. But they do have Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill. It's not a great offense, but it's decent enough, and it's enough to beat Carolina. Carolina, I do think is going to have a much better season last year. At least getting to 7 or 8 wins is my prediction, but they're not going to start the season with a win here against New Orleans. I do think New Orleans will be enough to beat them. I do think that this game could be close, though, and also in this game, I do think that Bryce Young could reinstate himself like, oh, look, he's actually a solid quarterback. He just had a god-awful rookie season. But I do think that Carolina could make this a close game, but I do think New Orleans is going to fight forward and get the dub here. Then we got Minnesota and the New York Giants. This is our last noon game of week 1. And Minnesota lost their quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, and now they're going to have to play Trey Lance. And not Trey Lance. Sam Darnold is the name I was looking for. I don't think Sam Darnold's going to be any good, but I do think he's going to be good enough to beat New York. New York's a hard team to talk about. Obviously, they got Daniel Jones, who I think He has some solid games, but after that terrible season last year, he's really going to have to reinstate himself. They lost Saquon. They added Malik Neighbors in the draft, but I don't think that's going to be truly enough. I think the Giants are going to get to maybe 5 or 6 wins this year. They're a hard team to think about because I do think they're qualified, but after completely ruining their season last year, I just don't have no hope for them. And I have no hope for the Vikings. The Vikings are my favorite NFC team. Still have no hope whatsoever for that team. So, I don't really know. I can easily see the Giants winning this one, but I do predict Minnesota because they do still have a solid offense. Justin Jefferson as the wide receiver. Aaron Jones is the back. They have a decent enough team, and it just really depends on how good Sam Darnold's going to be. I don't think he's going to be very good, but he could prove us wrong. There's a chance that we could be proved wrong, but I do still think that Minnesota will take the win here against the New York Giants. The Las Vegas Raiders faced the Los Angeles Chargers in a Sunday afternoon game. I don't think either of these teams are going to be good. The quarterback room for the Las Vegas Raiders, is terrible. Aiden O'Connell is qualified enough, but nobody else is. I don't even remember who they're starting here. Let me look real quick who's starting at quarterback. Gardner Minshew, he's solid. He had a solid year last year. You got Devontae Adams. I just don't know what I fully think of Las Vegas. I'll have to see how the quarterbacks are going to mesh up this year. Los Angeles, they were a team that were solid. They just needed Justin Herbert back. And look what they did. They got rid of Keenan Allen. They got rid of all their offense. And what did they do in the draft? They added on to the defense, which could make their defense a solid enough defense. But what are you going to do for the offense? I don't think that the offense is going to do much. And until you make some moves, Jim Harbaugh, a team that I respected in the Chargers, I don't respect them anymore. I do like Justin Herbert. I want him to get out of there because Jim Harbaugh's a cheater. Cannot stand him. And he made some awful coaching moves in the offseason with the Chargers. So I do think Las Vegas can win. I don't think that the Chargers are going to be very good, at least until they add a couple more offensive players. The Denver Broncos at the Seattle Seahawks, a rematch from a couple of years ago of Denver and Seattle, except this time Denver does not have a former quarterback on Seattle. They have Bo Nix, the rookie, and I think Bo Nix is going to be great this year. I think he's going to lead the Denver Broncos to almost a playoff spot or a playoff spot, but he's going to need to mesh in a little bit, and playing a tough Seattle Seahawks defense, I don't think that he's going to get the dub here. I do think Seattle's going to win. Plus, they still have DK, still have Tyler Lockett. They still have Kenneth Walker. What's his name? The quarterback, Geno Smith. I swear I'll get these names down. It's been a long offseason, okay? But they got a solid offense. I do think that this game is going to be close. I do think Bo Nix is going to prove that, hey, he's a solid quarterback. But I do still think that it's going to take a little, 1 or 2 weeks for Bo Nix to get used to. And then I think he'll get the Denver Broncos rolling as a solid team. Dallas Cowboys at the Cleveland Browns. Dallas is a team that I do not like, but I do obviously think they're great. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, solid duo there, but it's going to take a minute for them to get used to. They started off hot last year with a blowout against the New York Giants, but that was the New York Giants, so it doesn't matter. You're playing a tougher team with Cleveland. Cleveland's offense here, not as good because you don't have Joe Flacco anymore, but you have Deshaun Watson, so I don't think that their offense is going to be as good. Still, Nick Chubb is out for a little bit, so I don't think Dallas is going to take the dub, and I think I'm a bit complicated because I know Cleveland's defense is solid. I am scared because I have a feeling that Cleveland's defense is going to have a pretty solid game. I feel like they're going to have a decent game. So I don't think they're going to allow Dallas to score too much, but I do still think Dallas is going to be able to fight through and get the dub here against this Cleveland offense. So I do think Dallas is going to start 1-0. The Washington Commanders at Tampa Bay. Jaden Daniels won the Heisman last year. He was great. I saw him play Florida and absolutely kill them. Anyways, I love Jaden Daniels. I love watching him play, and I do think he's going to be solid on the Washington Commanders. But just like Bo Nix, it's going to take a few weeks to get used to, and I don't really think he's going to lead the Commanders to a playoff spot because they don't have as strong as a team as Denver can have. So Jaden Daniels is really going to carry the team, but they're going to need to get a solid wide receiver to help them out there. Anyways, Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield, great season last year, led them to the playoffs, and then they lost against Denver, against Denver in the second round. Or not Denver, but they lost against Detroit as the town, or the state that I was looking for. But they do have Baker Mayfield. They got Mike Evans. They got Chris Godwin. They got Rachaad White. So I do think, or Rachaad White, I'm sorry. I do think that this team is going to be solid. I think they're going to get a dub over Washington. I do think Jayden Daniels will prove to himself that he's still a great quarterback, but I don't think it'll be enough to do the dub against Tampa Bay. We got two primetime games here. The Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions face each other in a rematch from the NFC wildcard last year. And I have the Rams winning this one in a revenge match. I do think that the Rams are going to get the dub here. Rams had a terrible season after the Super Bowl win, which I loved because I'm not a Rams fan at all. But this year, they have Cooper Kupp full health. They got Puka Nacua, who is a fantastic wide receiver. They did prove themselves as a solid team last season, and so did Detroit. Detroit was a solid team as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Matthew Stafford, or Stafford is on the Rams. Jared Goff is on the Detroit Lions. So two solid quarterbacks who have great wide receiver cores. I don't think both of these teams are going to be solid, but I do think that the Rams are going to pull away and get the victory here because it was a NFC rematch, an NFC wildcard revenge rematch. I do think both teams are going to be overly solid this year, but I do think Los Angeles is going to be able to pull away in a tough, close match. In our Monday night game, the New York Jets face the San Francisco 49ers. I do think that the New York Jets are going to be decent enough this year. I do think that they're going to, because they have Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, solid wide receiver core. I do think they're going to be solid, fight their way to a wild card playoff spot. But you're not beating San Francisco, who just come off a Super Bowl loss, really close loss, overtime loss. Might I add, they got Brock Purdy, great quarterback. They got Christian McCaffrey. They got Deebo Samuel. They got Brandon Ayuk, a great offense. They have a fantastic defense. And it's going to be a close match. I don't know if it's going to be a close match here against the New York Jets. They did pull away with a Week 1 victory last year in primetime on Monday Night Football. So that's something that you got to think about. But I do think San Francisco is going to be pulled away. I think the first half is going to be close. And then the second half is the San Francisco is just going to completely pull away with the dub. That was my Week 1 predictions. We have never been so bad. College football was last week. Oh my God. We have NFL this week. And then so awesome. So awesome. So go ahead and give this channel a subscribe on More ZMC. Go check out my main channel if you like movie content. Zachary Movie Chat if you're just now joining over here. Thank you guys for clicking on this video. Let me know down below what is your predictions for the NFL Week 1. Stay tuned for a bunch more videos. And with that said, subscribe, join the Nerd Army. Peace out.